Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by the Gritty Broman.
What's up, guys?
Brent Call. Today's episode is with Tanner Howard. He is the owner of Stalkasins, which are kind of like a little Chuck. They're
We call them. They're like a mix between Chuck Taylors meets moccasins.
Yeah, they're kind of like that.
They're pretty sweet.
They are. They lace up. They're like high tops almost, you know.
Mm-hmm. But they still have that moccasin-y look to them. They're slick. I don't know how to explain them. Go look them up.
Yeah, I had gone on my coos deer hunt in Arizona, did the classic slip your boots off, put on a pair of old wool socks, sneak up on the deer, climb a little bit of a tree, shoot deer. And I said,
No big deal.
My stocks were
Whatever.
just kind of trashed. And I was like, man, I really need something that can withstand cactus, but then still let you be sneaky and quiet. What happened was I decided to...
You made an Instagram post
about
and a bunch
it, right.
of people were saying, check this guy
There were
out.
a lot of other options out there, but that one intrigued me the most. And a couple of mule deer slaying experts,
Mm-hmm.
great mule deer hunters, swore by them. I trust their opinion. They're cool dudes, like Kip Fowler. So I decided I'm going to check it out. So I reached out to Tanner, and I thought, well, if I'm going to figure out about these things, I'll pass it on to all of you. So we did a podcast. It's a pretty good podcast. I really enjoyed it. I think Tanner nailed it. I think you get a feel. I mean, it's all relevant and useful information. If you want to be a sneaky dude in the woods, check him out. Also, if you just want to be comfortable, I mean, he uses them to fly and to go different places. Like
He all of his road trips. That's what he wears in his road
like,
trips.
seriously, I'm excited. For those that have listened to the podcast for a long time, I like going barefoot or
Brian
being
hates
barefoot.
shoes and hates flip-flops.
Yeah, Brent's right. He's right. Like I would rather be barefoot than in flip flops.
I'll wear flip-flops into the office, and Brian just looks at my feet, and then there's just this upper lip curl that comes on.
Yeah.
Unconscious.
Anyway, today's show is good. Listen to it. I hope it makes y'all sneaky. And Tanner is a college kid, college man,
Mm-hmm.
college young man, growing a little business. He's the OG
He's
for
a
these.
young entrepreneur.
He's like, I can't really patent leather moccasins. So
He calls it a revival.
yeah, he's doing a great job with a great product, meeting the need.
They're
And I
all
would-
handmade.
Yeah, and I would love to see him and his wife get a booming.
What we like to
Increasing-
hear is when people come on the podcast, and then we tell people about them, and then our audience drowns them.
Yeah, with product, with product purchases. So I hope you guys, we're not getting anything out of this, but he did agree to pass on, he did offer to pass on a discount to all of the Gritty listeners. They have a chance to get a pretty good discount on these handmade leather moccasins.
I believe he said they retail for $145, and you can get them for $120.
Yeah, with the discount. Just
Mhm.
put in the code Gritty, and you'll get them for $120.
And
Check
if you-
them out. You'll see why, as we talk about them, why they're cool, why they work great, why leather's good, why it's a great option for backpacking and so on. So check it out. Before we get into
Watch it. Watch the episode, because you can see the exact pair that he's been hunting with for
3 years.
Yeah, you can see he's beat them up, but they
They're
still
like
look
new.
they look new.
I think they're a one-time purchase, and then they just kind of last forever.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me.
And how
And if-
many times do you use your socks you go stalking in?
Oh, if you're sneaking up on deer in Arizona, these high country mule deer, if you're sneaking out, if you're in a situation where you're taking your boots off, kind of like South Cox does, or a lot of these mule deer guys do. I'm hunting whitetail, like coos deer.
Mm-hmm.
Man, these seem like the ticket. So check it out. I'm new to them. I'm going to try them out this year. I'm really excited. I'm
Mhm.
also going to wear them just all the time, just to wear them.
So go to lonepeakleatherco.com.
okay.
I think it might just be lonepeakleather.com. And then use the code
The
word.
link will be in the description of the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Go to briancall.com. You can find and podcasts. You'll find all of our podcasts. You'll find this episode. Click on that YouTube link on the thumbnail, and you will see the link to the site.
And use the code word gritty.
Gritty. Before we do that, we're going to read some comments sent in by all you folks
Mm-hmm.
that are chiming in and answer some questions.
This one is brought to us. This is an email from Kyle Greenleaf. The subject is exercise/recovery question. So I've been listening since about episode 40-something, and I have really enjoyed all the nutritional and exercise-based podcasts. I've started eating cleaner and more keto-ish. I've also been working out more. I'm actually down 40 pounds. I'm writing because I've noticed a fair amount of back pain a day or two after working out. What would you recommend to do? Either exercising to strengthen my back or stretches to help ease the pain. I do realize I could just look this online, but I trust you more than the hundreds of other opinions that I'll find out there. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks for writing in, Kyle. Appreciate the question. I think usually low back pain is caused by a tightness in your glutes and hams. It's actually your legs that are tight, your hamstrings are tight, your quads can get tight. Like all that muscle they're big muscles in your legs, in your butt. Especially if you're new to exercise and you're doing a lot of vigorous activity, your legs can get super tight, and they're just so big. Once they get tight, they actually shrink. They they're elongated, and when they're normal, they just kind of they shorten. And when they're tight and dehydrated and broken down from exercise, they pull on the muscles in the low back. That causes a lot of tightness. And what a lot of people do is they focus on their low back and they keep bending over and stretching and pulling on their low back, which is actually not what you want to do. It's actually counterintuitive. You're much better off stretching your legs, stretching your hams, stretching your glutes, laying in a doorway with your leg like straight up on one end with your other leg extended, doing various stretches to try to loosen up the tight leg muscles.
And it's better to do that along the way than wait till your muscles are so shortened and so tightened that it's actual agony to stretch them.
That pain in the low back can be counteracted by, like I said, all that stuff in the lower body. And then it can also pull from the shoulders and the back muscles a little bit on the high back, but generally it's in the legs. The other thing to do is get a lacrosse ball and a foam roller and start digging in with a lacrosse ball like on your hip. I like to stand against the wall and roll it around on my hip and my glutes, and then I get on the foam roller and do the same thing, and then I stretch, and then I roll, and I stretch, and I get on the lacrosse ball and dig in, and it's painful, and I try to move my muscles while I'm on that pressure point, which trying to break up the myofascia tissue. So what happens is your muscles are all these fibers, and in between these muscle fibers, you can get this myofascia tissue from soreness, and it's sort of like glue that glues those fibers together, and they get tight, and you want to break up those fibers.
Friction and heat is the only cure.
Get them to break apart, then move smoothly. So sometimes the way to do that really is like with a lacrosse ball deep in your hip in that sore spot. And then you're like moving your hip and your leg around in circles. And while you have that pressure on, it's causing while the muscle's getting smashed and moving at the same time, it's breaking up that glue, that myofascial tissue that's kind of stuck. So that's why they use floss as well, which really worked well for Aaron Snyder. That's a rubber band kind of thing that you wrap around the muscle. It could be your calf muscle, could be your forearm. Aaron had elbow pain. You can wrap it around your tricep, the head of your tricep, and your forearm around your elbow. It's super tight. And then once it's just tight on those muscles, then Aaron would like contract his arm, expand and contract the arm and flex while it was being smashed. As he's moving his arm back and forth and contracting the muscle, it would break apart again, that myofascial tissue that's stuck together, and loosen up the muscle and break up all that tightness and that soreness. Likely, if you, like Brent said, if you've waited a long time to work on it, it's gotten much, much worse.
I blew my ankle out playing volleyball. I probably should have gotten it checked out, and I probably would have gotten surgery on it. It was bad. I came down on someone, and my foot hit the ground, and then it twisted, and my ankle is what hit the ground.
Yeah.
Like my foot was
Snapped.
completely sideways.
Yeah.
I didn't get it checked out by a doctor, because Brent don't do no doctors. couple years later, I was at school and I started doing a bunch of squats and really started getting into weightlifting. And my left side, that side with the ankle, was always stiff and was always hurting. And I would stretch and I'd stretch and I would roll and I'd roll. But about that 4 or 6 inches on the outside right above my ankle, I wouldn't touch, because when I touched it, it would hurt. And I was dating my wife now, and she started rubbing my ankle, and she's like, this feels like gravel.
Yeah.
And she had a friend that was there that was a certified masseuse, and she came over and she's like, yeah, this is messed up. And she like manhandled me, flipped me over and started rubbing it. I was trying not to scream, but I had fascia, had just crunched down around that to help keep that intact. And it probably took, I saw her 3 days a week for 45 minutes for a month.
Yeah.
And it was just 45 minutes of pain because I had ignored it for so long. And it is some of the worst pain.
Right. If you're lacking mobility, a lot of times it's because that scar tissue is now in place and you got to break it apart. You got to get it to
my ankle is half the size that it was.
Like Brent said, if you can get on it and as you're sore, rub and work on those things, you'll be able to break a lot of that tissue loose and keep it from becoming a major problem. But like Brent, we joke about it like you're going into the pain cave. Like right now I'm really sore from a lot of the working out I've done over the past week. I clean and jerked like 270 the other day, a few times, and I'm tight in some spots. That right there, just I know. Get on a roller, get on it, even though it's uncomfortable, 2 or 3 times a day for 10 or 15 minutes each time. Get those spots that get stuck, get those muscles that, I know on my body kind of where I have problems. I work on those, get them loose. A great book for this, if you want to do this at home and on your own, is The Supple Leopard, and a great resource is that book. You can get it on Amazon, wherever you get your books. And then Mobility WOD. I don't remember if the Mobility WOD is free anymore.
I don't know, but that's Kelly Starrett. Both of them, right?
I watched the Mobility WOD for 2 years when it was free, and it was on YouTube, and I think it might still be there. I don't know. Kelly will kind of just have little YouTube videos here and there that showed you all these tricks on how to unlock these tight spots and these bad muscle spots.
The Supple Leopard book is great because it's pictures after pictures after pictures.
The other thing is diet and water. Like, you want to be hydrated and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you're getting electrolytes.
Kyle here is doing all right. He's dropped 40 pounds and he's working out. And my guess is he's probably working out too much. His legs have gotten big and he's probably not stretching them.
Well, a lot of times what people do, like I said, is they stretch their back instead of stretching their legs because the pain is in the back. But that's not where that's not the root cause of it. It's referred. It's from the tight glutes and hams. The other thing to do is the cobra, like in the yoga position. You back bend in reverse. You should do that every day. We spend so much time sitting and hunch forward in a forward position. Very rarely do we back bend the other way and spend time in that position. So a couple days a week, I try to lay on my stomach with my pelvis on the ground, go up on my hands like I'm doing a push-up with my pelvis still on the ground, and arch backward, sit like that, or I lay on my stomach while I'm doing some computer stuff, and just anything to sort of reverse the time spent in a forward position. I know it sounds hokey or kooky sometimes, but all that stuff works, man.
I was having some problems with my psoas muscle on my left side. It hurts to stretch. It's deep in there. It's like in your stomach. It's like behind a bunch of stuff. It's really hard to get at. And I got a medicine ball, the biggest medicine ball that I could find so I could get the most arch, and I would lay on that for about 10, 15 minutes. And at first I couldn't do it for more than 30 seconds because it hurt so much.
Yeah.
But the person who told me to get that medicine ball gave me some great advice, and it's something that stuck with me. And they said that maintenance is always better than an overhaul.
Yeah. I think we better just start this podcast.
Yeah, people are probably tired of that.
That question went on for quite a while, but
I
hope that helps everyone out there. Enjoy this podcast with Tanner. Check out his Stalkasins, and as always, stay gritty, friends.
Stay gritty.
Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. Today, I'm joined by Tanner Howard, right?
Yes, sir.
Tanner Howard, who is the mastermind, the creative genius behind Stalkasins.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Stalkasins.
So I got my brother Brent behind the running the show here.
What's up?
In the back end. I was on a hunt for coos deer about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks
The
ago.
one in Arizona?
Yeah.
Gosh, was it only 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It feels like it was last year.
Yeah. So I shot a coos deer buck, which was great. The bow.
He,
With a
like his
bow?
little humble brag. Did you not hear the story? Brian ran up a tree
No,
and shot. No, Brian ran. It's like a Y-fork tree. He runs 6 feet up in the air and shoots it.
Like Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings Legolas
that's
style.
totally not true.
I was
Like,
there. I
Totally
saw it
not
all.
true. No, I climbed up a tree slowly in my socks.
Okay.
And hence, that's why we're having this conversation today. So
Yeah, you posted something last week
Yeah.
on Instagram about asking for help.
yeah, so I posted this photo on Instagram.
The one with you just in your socks and it got a bajillion views.
Yeah, ridiculous.
random.
Like I'm standing there in wool socks.
People
with
like
my-
feet.
Yeah.
Everyone's
true.
got them.
So stalk this buck in my socks. I've done this many times.
Yeah.
I've even gone barefoot in
Wow.
Arizona. Not a good idea. Or Alberta. Those are some places I won't go barefoot just because of all the cactus.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Not that socks protect you that much either, but
Make you feel better, I guess.
Yeah,
yeah.
that false sense of security, that's
Yeah.
something.
hmm
So anyway, I did the hunt and I realized, I've looked into something on that final approach on a stalk. I always take my boots off most of the time because it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And there's that word again that we like to use on the podcast, game changer. But it's true. You sneak in there with boots on, you're breaking branches, you're making noise. You just cannot be as quiet with a pair of boots on as you can barefoot or in socks. So I usually bring South Cox told me about this years ago. I used to have some different sneaky like shoe options that I put on, like Vibram 5-finger or some other things. And then I would take my socks off and put on these other options. And then later South's like, I just use like 2 pairs of wool socks. Then I throw them away after the hunt. It's like, hey, that's not a bad idea. And so for a few
If you can
years,
afford it.
yeah. So for years, I've been
Some of us
getting,
can't.
I've been getting cheap socks from like cheap wool ones from Cabela's, whatever. And then you just go out and you do your little stalks and you're hunting in these, and then you chuck them when you're done. And
A lot of people have done that. I've tried
Yeah.
that.
it's not bad, but I was lamenting the option, especially as I was climbing some rocks in steep terrain in Arizona, and I kept sliding down the hill with these socks on.
Mhm.
And
Like sliding through your socks, kind of.
yeah, sliding out
Yeah,
of my
out of your
sock.
socks,
My
yeah.
socks are falling off as I'm trying to climb the steep hill.
Yeah.
And it just still didn't address the cactus problem. Like I still had to be hyper vigilant of cactuses and not getting stabbed. So I put this post on Instagram, and I got lots of comments, and dudes left, a couple of hundred comments on what they like to use. And a few stood out to me. And one of them was the Stalkasins,
Mhm.
which, Kip Fowler said, check him out. And Kip's a mule deer slayer.
Yeah.
He's an assassin. He's kills some giants and always has. And then my friend Mark over at Muley Slayer, he said the same thing. Mark Smith and a few other guys. And I was like, I see a theme here. Guys that are really, really good mule deer hunters that slip in close, and they're all kind of wearing your moccasins. And so that's how we got introduced, was through Instagram. So I wanted to have you on the podcast today because I think my audience can benefit a lot from the product that you're creating. And I wanted to learn about it and get the whole thing behind it. And I think my audience, I'm like, might as well have you on the podcast so my audience
for
can
having me.
benefit at the same time. So here we are. It's a long-winded explanation of how we got here, but I hope.
Socks on Insta.
Yeah. So your name's Tanner Howard. You're from Rapid City, South Dakota.
Originally.
You moved here when you were 8 to Utah?
Yeah, I grew up here, but I mean, those those that have been to the Black Hills in South Dakota know why I claim that as home still.
Yeah.
It's a special place.
It is a special place for sure. And so you're 24 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
And how long have you been married?
Year and a half now.
Year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fresh, dude.
Yeah.
That's brand new. I didn't realize, I suppose if you do the math, couldn't have been that long. So how does marriage feel?
It's great. It's good. I mean, when you got a hot wife that likes to hunt with you and do everything you love to do, there's no complaints.
Now, you were telling me your wife is European. She's from Spain.
She's from Spain. So she grew up in a totally different culture, like totally.
Mm-hmm.
And but she's been so great to just adapt and just learn to love the situation she's in. And it's been fun.
And you were a missionary in Spain.
Yep.
And learned the language and did all that. And
I met her there in Spain. And then when I came home after 2 years, I wasn't expecting to ever see her again. That would have been awesome.
Right.
I was like, man, she's attractive. But we ended up reconnecting at school in Provo, Utah. And started dating. We dated for like a year. She had to go home, wait for a student visa and whatnot. But ended up getting married after dating for like a year. And I recommend marrying an international woman because you can marry someone so much more attractive than yourself just because you're American.
It's the
so I played that card.
We call it gaijin power. I was a missionary in Japan.
Yeah,
and so gaijin is foreigner,
mm-hmm.
and so we call it gaijin power because if you had
so you understand.
In fact, the Japanese missionaries, the native Japanese, that's the term they would use. They're like, dude, you're not that handsome of a fella, but these Japanese girls like you simply because you have gaijin power, you know? So
you understand.
Like he said,
there's
like
a
it was
certain
Godzilla.
Power.
Yeah.
There's a certain, you know, I suppose it goes both ways as well, right? Like there's certain, I guess, exotic feeling.
Yeah.
Dating someone from a whole different culture.
Uh-huh. That's another conversation, but yeah. Uh-huh.
So anyway, that's really cool. So your wife is, you've been married a year and a half, and she actually helps you build the moccasins.
She does. Yep. She's learned everything that I know how to do. So we run it kind of like a dentist's office, you know, where like the hygienist comes in, she does all the routine stuff, and then the dentist comes in and does the rest. That's kind of like how we do it. Like we break up the work and we hand make every pair of Stalkasins custom to the customer's order, and she's great.
So let's get into the actual product here, okay?
Okay.
And Brent, you can throw this up on the screen for those that are watching. Here's a master builder in progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that machine you're on there?
A hand stitcher. So it's like a big cast iron sewing machine, not electric, but you just control every stitch.
That seems very like Italian artisan.
Basically, it's just like a big, just if you took a sewing machine, made it out of cast iron, and just put a big hand crank on it.
Okay.
It's meant for, I mean, my dad's a saddle maker. And this kind of is a good segue into how I got into all this. He's a saddle maker on the side. So I grew up watching him make these incredible works of art out of leather. And I'm sure I would like go out there and watch him, and he would throw me a piece of leather and say, here, mess with that for a while, you know, to
punch holes in it.
Yeah, whatnot. And so I was always around leather for a while. I've always been into making stuff. I'm studying engineering right now, manufacturing engineering. So it's always been on my mind, but it wasn't until the actual idea of Stalkasins came up that I really got into leather crafting. So I was up hunting on the Wasatch Front 2013 when I was like 17, just got into bow hunting. I grew up rifle hunting, and I'd seen on TV all these guys kicking their boots off, you know?
Yeah.
And they kill deer. I'm like,
that's how you do it.
So I did the math. I was like, if I want to kill a deer, I need to take my boots off. So I saw this buck, like the first year I was hunting. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, I got to take my boots
quickly.
Off. Yeah. Simple math. So take my boots off, try to get close, end up stepping on a cactus, get a cactus spine half inch up my foot, feeling great, enjoying. I was like, man, bow hunting's awesome. And so didn't kill the buck, obviously, but came hobbling in through the door. My dad sees me. He's like, what'd you do to yourself? I'm like, stepped on a cactus. He's like, what are you doing taking your boots off? And I explained to him that that's just what you do. He's like, well, just go out and make a pair of leather moccasins. So I was like, well, I guess. I mean,
duh.
So I went out and made a crude pair of leather moccasins, and I made some for my friend, and a friend of a friend, and it just snowballed. Started perfecting my design, started getting good at leather crafting. Mm-hmm. And long story short, we're here today. That's what I do. So I'm a full-time student, but on the side, with every other moment I have.
It's your side hustle.
Yep. Pounding out gear for people.
So why, tell me this, why, what, sell me on this. Mm-hmm. You know, what makes a Stalkasin better than an alternative option? There's a lot of products out there on the market. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys wrote in and told me about other things. Yeah. I'm going to try a few different things, but, you know, why the Stalkasins?
So it all has to do with the problem you have. The problem is you want to be quiet and you don't want to have cactus in your feet, right? And we can get into like more details of that, but those are the two main things.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can wear an extra pair of socks and that keeps you quiet, but it doesn't solve the other problem. You could wear.
Plus they're a pain if you want to salvage a pair of socks. Like I know guys wrote in and go, wow, that's a good idea. You actually, I noticed in your photo, Brian, that you had an extra pair of socks you had put on for the stock, not the actual ones in your boots. And a bunch of guys were like, man, I usually just take off my boots, sneak in, get all kinds of burrs and crap in my socks, and then I got to put those socks back on, and it's a nightmare. I'm like, yeah, that's where the socks used for the stock are not the socks you use in your boots for hunting, you know. So you've got the problem when you either throw away socks or you have a lot of cleanup.
Yep, exactly. So you want to have something quiet and protects you. The quietest thing would be just to go barefoot, just skin, right?
Which I like.
Leather is skin. So you're just sacrificing the skin of another.
Look at that salesman.
Yeah, there you go. So, no, but I'm serious. I mean, leather, those that have worked with it know it's extremely puncture resistant.
Yeah.
And it's quiet, it's pliable, whatnot. You're not going to get the same thing out of a rubber. You're going to maybe get some puncture resistance, but you're going to lose that soft, quiet feel.
Yeah, you got Vibram 5 fingers and some options like that. Yeah. Some guys mentioned neoprene type booties, which again, I think for me, they're not quiet enough. That's why I like a sock, because I can step on a branch and I can feel that I'm stepping on a branch. Mm-hmm.
Which is more important than those that haven't tried it may not know what that means, like to feel the ground, but it's really important.
And it's a big difference when you step on a branch with some pliability under your feet versus something stiff, because you can step on a lot of little teeny branches and grass and crunchy things. And if you have a soft, like a fleece foot on the bottom or a sock or something, I know I can step on that and it muffles the sound. It doesn't actually break every little thing you step on.
Yeah. They're puncture resistant and they're soft, and th're not waterproof. They're water resistant. So that would be another, if someone wants to go a different direction, by all means. If you're going to be stalking in snow and whatnot, I don't know why you're taking your boots off, because you're not going to be any more quiet. But, leather's probably not the way you want to go, depending on the climate you're in. But for a Western hunt, spot and stalk, you're going to be typically in a dry area where you need to be extremely quiet because everything's super loud and you have cactus. It's just the perfect solution. And it's not like I invented these. I mean, I can't patent a leather moccasin. It's been around for thousands of years. I consider it more of like a revival.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, humans have been using those for hunting for eons, I suppose. Yeah.
It sounds cliche, but it works. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, they just work. Yours lace up pretty high.
Mm-hmm. They're kind of like Chuck Taylor's.
Totally. And why did you go with that? Well, how did they evolve? What you started out with?
So the first pair I made was, I actually Googled, I was like, leather moccasin. And I found all these Native American inspired or actually Native American moccasins. And most of them were simple design, maybe one button, one simple closure, system, whatever. So the first pair I made was this one solid piece of leather that kind of wrapped around your foot and buttoned on the side. I actually still make them, but I sell them as more of like a slipper type.
Yeah.
And they were good. I mean, they were puncture resistant, but they slipped around on your feet, just like you said with socks. So I tried to come up with a way to, secure them a little better. And I figured, the higher up you go on your ankle without too high, I'm not making like sexy leather boots, but you want to, ankle high, and then I lace them up all the way. It just allows you to get them as tight as you want them. Some guys want them loose. Some guys want them tight. So it allows you to kind of decide.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What other revisions have you done since your first prototype?
So originally I custom fit every single customer because it was just, like I said, it was a friend of a friend thing. I sold things locally, but then people wanted them all around the country and even internationally. I can't obviously do that. So I thought, okay, well, I got to make kind of an average of all the feet I've ever fit. Mm-hmm. So I had this big box full of these patterns that I made. And I just went through and started laying them over top of each other and made this average. And that was the first pair of sold by size moccasins that I made. But then I figured, some people have wide feet, some people have narrow feet. And I have a lot of people that are really concerned about that. So I figured, why don't I make them so that the seam that splits down the middle, make it a little lower down on your foot so that if you need it to be wider, it can open up. Mm-hmm. And if you need it to be more narrow, you can just lace it up tighter. So that's kind of one of the main upgrades or innovations. It's pretty simple, but it's something that really helped people to get the fit that they want. So now, selling them by size, I can get people fit very, very well. If you go on my website, you can actually see I have a size chart. It shows you how to simply measure your foot and order the right size, because it doesn't exactly correlate to perfect shoe sizes. And since they're meant to fit like a sock, I want people to be sure, because us guys think we have bigger feet than we do a lot of the time.
Seriously. So. Well, that's one thing I found. Like, I used to run barefoot, a bunch.
Like a heathen.
I used to hike a lot barefoot. I actually like doing a lot of barefoot things. Snyder, the idea of not having a shoe on his foot just makes him cringe.
He wants like steel toe, cast iron boots to protect his feet. He's hardcore.
I'm much more like, I like barefoot. I'll sleep my boots off to
pretty
do
natural.
A stalk all the time. Yeah. Like, there's no, you're not going to die. Your feet aren't going to like bleed out or anything. Like, it's amazing how tough your feet are, really, at the end of the day. And so a minimalist shoe, I really like that style. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of that nice blend where you can go from, not quite barefoot, but close, get a lot of the benefits of barefoot, but not be barefoot.
And cactus won't go through them. 2 years ago, I was putting a stalk on a whitetail in South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a Sandhills, Nebraska type. Missouri Breaks probably is a better.
Yeah, kind of like Alberta Badlands.
The cactus everywhere, as you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting a stalk on this buck. I end up shooting him, sitting there freaking out, like trying to contain myself. And I look down, I'm standing on a cactus, and nothing happened. Nothing even went through. And I actually pulled my phone out and made this video and posted on Instagram. I'm all out of breath. Like, I just shot a buck, but just look, this is so cool. I'm standing on a cactus and it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Because that was in the beginning days of Stalkasins.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool that I was able to step on a cactus and not even know.
For me, everyone in camp in Arizona, including like Lampert, like everybody, we all like shed our boots and move in something. Everybody had their own thing. And I would argue that the guys who didn't take their boots off don't get close to killing anything.
Yeah.
So, it's really tough with a big clunky pair of boots on to close the distance. A lot of guys are using tennis shoes, but again, they're not the same. So I like to wear a boot for my general comfort and carrying a pack and a load and all that. But to backpack or to bring on a pair of booties like this, moccasins, they compact fairly well. Mm-hmm.
They're light.
To other options, and they're light. How much does a pair weigh?
Man,
somewhere 9, 11,
They're
10?
between 7 and 10, if I remember right. I have to check, but
not heavy.
No.
For what you're getting.
Yeah.
And you were saying you'd take these on an airplane ride.
Yeah, I wear them road trips. That's all I do. You can walk into a gas station with them, and it's just a pair of shoes.
I like it.
Pretty sweet. And
I like it.
When you're backpacking somewhere, the last thing you want to do when you get back to camp is keep your boots on. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have something to put on. If they're clean, I'll climb in my sleeping bag with them.
Well, I kind of wonder about, this has happened to a few guys that I know, where they get blisters from their boots. Something goes wrong. They work a hot spot.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. This happened to me a couple of times on some long hikes where I didn't wear like a sock liner. and I'm
like a nylon thin.
yeah, and I'm 9 miles in on a 18-mile hike, and I'm getting a blister. Blisters are debilitating and can be debilitating. I mean, they can just cause so much pain, and then they can take weeks to go away. I've been known on a couple of occasions taking my boots off and hiking barefoot the other 9 miles.
Really?
And
hardcore.
That right there is actually less abusive, I feel like, on your feet than the blisters are.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean, I've never done that or even close to it.
But I think people are so afraid of walking barefoot. It's ridiculous. It's like humans have evolved to handle barefoot well. You look at other cultures across the world where they go barefoot 24/7 in Africa.
But those people don't have toes.
Polynesian
They've
islands.
got these different kind of things at the end of their feet that look like toes.
I'm just saying.
But they're appendages.
Absolutely. Your feet are modern man feet in the United States.
I'm a softie. I have really soft feet, so I can't do that. But for those of you that identify with me with having soft feet,
and Tanner, I'll tell you what I think.
Not being hardcore.
It's not that you have soft feet; it's that you have a
soft personality.
Yes,
soft manhood.
You don't have. You just don't quite have the grit that you need to develop.
Aren't you happy you came?
Yeah, very welcoming environment. Yeah. No, but. Honestly, I can't do that. I can't walk around barefoot because I've never done it because I'm a softie. Okay, I'll admit it.
But Aaron calls me. He says I have freak Native American feet, but
it's because Brian came from a family with 8 kids. There weren't enough shoe money for all the children.
We truly grew up going barefoot all the time on gravel roads and catching frogs and crowd ads down.
Brian lived in a bus till he was like 9, so his parents were freaking poor.
A Volkswagen bus. We had the same parents.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, your brothers,
parents
right?
were not poor.
Only by the time he came along, my parents were wealthy. Yeah. When I was a kid, we
money.
So anyway,
see, my dad's a doctor, and I'm the youngest, so I know.
So you're saying
my older siblings complain all the time,
especially for those that don't have.
Yeah, you put these on, you feel like you are wearing socks in the sense that you feel freedom or whatever, right. whatever it is you feel.
Yes,
but you're protected when you're on a stalk. If you're having to use whatever percentage of your concentration to look for cactuses.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I mean, that's a significant problem.
And
there's
I've been
enough time to look down and look back up. Look down, look back up.
No, that's why I was telling you earlier, for years now, I've been hunting with tweezers. Like, I don't leave home without tweezers.
I can make you a little like leather holster for your tweezers on your thigh or something.
Seriously, like... pulling things out of not just my feet, but my hands and other things on stalks are just a way of life, right? Yeah. So,
sounds like a bad way of life.
And having a pair of tweezers in the backcountry is a game changer, in my opinion. There's the word again. So,
especially for your campmates when you get them in your butt and they don't want to use their hands. Everyone needs a friend sometimes. Everyone needs a friend.
You don't want to be that guy.
That's disturbing.
Yeah, sorry. It's too much.
No, I
think that is a significant factor. Like, I'm lucky in the sense that as a young entrepreneur, I haven't had to sell my product. I am not afraid to admit I stumbled upon an idea that solves people's problems. And I don't have to say, well, this is better because this. People see it and they're like, that makes sense. Some people want to try it before they're totally convinced, and that's fine. But it's not something that I have to really sell people on because they've been used for thousands of years and there's a reason for that.
Right. And there's a bunch of other brands out there I'm aware of where they've put, especially something that you can slip over the top of your boots. I know a lot of hunters that that have the attitude, I'm never taking my boot off. Like, no way.
Yeah.
So they're happy to strap something on the outside, which to me is akin to trying to sneak in on something with a brick strapped to your foot.
Yeah. I understand.
It's not my thing. I like
taking off my boots because when I stop to take out my boots, it puts my mind. I mean, now we're getting into psychology of hunting, Zen mode, but it slows me down. I'm like, okay, I need to stop. I need to slow down. I'm putting my Stalkasins on. I'm in a different frame of mind now.
That's my argument for when I go barefoot or when I'm in my socks as well, is I'm certainly not going to go too fast because I don't want to get a cactus in my foot. So it slows me down. In a pair of boots, you can just cruise in too fast. There's a physical barrier to keep me from trying to stalk in on something too fast, And
if you need, you could run in these. Actually, funny story. You mentioned Mark, Mark Smith, Muley Slayer. The first time we met, we actually happened to be camping like 100 yards from each other up on the front.
Yeah.
And neither of us were going to budge. We're like, no, we both been scouting. And me and my brother were hunting up there. And later, Taos and Jenkins came up.
Yeah.
But we ended up getting to kind of like a disagreement the first couple of days because we were both in each other's area. But we ended up just becoming friends and hunted the rest of the week.
Yeah.
But he said later when we actually talked to him, he said, man, the first time I saw you, I saw some dude running through this basin at full speed with like this yellow stuff on his feet. Like, what is that? And then it was my moccasins. The first pair I ever made was deerskin, so bright yellow.
Right.
So he sees me running because I was on a stalk, but I realized I was in a bad position. I had to get around,
Before
a big patch of trees before they got there. So I took off sprinting at full speed across, this rugged, and it was fine. That's another positive. I don't know.
Right.
But
I
don't know if very many guys are running, but
you're not doing that in socks.
I have to run sometimes. I'm not that good of a hunter.
No, actually, that's very valid. I have had to run a number of times to get to a new spot, or even after a shot is made, run up the hill and to see where the animal's headed down a canyon, or so I can keep eyes on it, something like that. It's very cool. So people can follow you on Instagram.
Lone Peak Leather Co.
Lone Peak Leather Co. Just as it sounds. And people can click. We'll put the link in the description on the YouTube video for this. And people can find all our YouTube videos at briancall.com on the podcast link.
LonePeakLeather.com is the website.
Okay, and then we'll put that in there as well. LonePeakLeather.com. You said you can do a discount for all the Gritty listeners.
I'd love to.
For Gritty Nation.
We don't know what to call our audience. It's been like 4 years.
It's the Gritty Pals. So all the Gritty folks that are listening to the podcast, Tanner's going to give you 15% off if you use the code Gritty at checkout. Passing on a little discount to everybody.
And I would say this is the time to do it. Like I said, these are all custom made per order. That's one of the cool things about, here I am.
Yeah.
Saying what's cool. People can decide what's cool, but they're all handmade. So when you buy this, it's not like buying something off a shelf. You're getting something custom made for you.
Yeah.
It's a different addition to your gear than a lot of things.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Lead time, and how long does a pair of these last?
Okay. First question, lead time. Depends on when you order. If you order now, it can be as short as 10 days, but I would say on average 3 to 4 weeks.
So that's why now is the time to
now is the time to do it.
To buy them.
I get guys coming like 3 days before a hunt. It's like, I really need these. I'm like,
all your orders come in July and the hunts are in August.
And my life sucks for like a month. But I would say order now if you want them. If you feel like this is something that's going to help you, do it now. That way you can get yours. As you wear them, they'll form to your feet a little bit because they're leather. I try to make them so they fit tight at first, or at least snug.
Okay. And what do you sell them for?
They're retail for $145.
So what is 10%, 15% off? About $120. Okay.
There you go.
And second question:
how long does it last? I mean, is the guy going to buy these and then blow them up in one season?
Well, no. First of all, no. They'll last. It depends on what you're using them for. If you're like
years.
if you're using them only for stalking, they'll
pass them on to my children.
They would last. They should last 10 years if you're only. These are mine, so I have a goofy flat foot with no arch, so that's why mine are all funky looking. But these, I've worn them a ton. Road trips on airplanes for 3 years, and they're totally 100% okay.
Okay.
They look beat up.
So 3 years you've had these?
Mm-hmm. And they will fight back a cactus just like a day one.
Leather's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's not like a guy, it's an investment. You buy a pair for $120, use the coupon code, and then...
they'll last you indefinitely. I don't know why. Unless you're wearing them like trail running, like on a daily basis, you shouldn't wear through them.
I'm digging these.
It's leather, so, leather's leather.
Yeah.
So they're not rubber and whatnot. They get some character built into them,
Man, these would
like
be
on my,
nice.
If you go up to the top of my Instagram, there's actually...
I might hunt in these a lot. Just wear them all the time.
Yeah. If you like barefoot, you would have no problem. Us softies, I still just mentally, I like boots, but I wear these on every stalk. So that guy right there, he dripped a little good luck charm, as I said, on his. So hopefully, before long, yours will look like that.
Yeah, a little blood on there.
Yeah.
That says, I am victorious. Very cool. Okay, folks. If you've got questions for Tanner, hit him up on Instagram, Lone Peak Leather Company. Hit him up on your website. You have an email there, I'm sure.
Yep.
And it's also lonepeakleathercompany.com.
Lonepeakleather.com.
Lonepeakleather.com. Link will be in our YouTube video. Check that out. Thanks for tuning in to the Gritty Podcast. Hopefully this was useful for you guys that are hardcore, sneaky dudes. And take advantage of the 15% off. We're going to do that for 60 days.
Yes, sir.
You know, so you got till the end of March, basically.
Yeah.
March 31st to use the code. And now's the time because once the busy season hits,
Get in line. People want them.
get in line. So, all right, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank
As
you.
always, stay gritty, friends. Thanks, Tanner.